الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Respected listeners, Ibn Asakir rahimahullah records an incident in his kitab Tarikh Dimishq, as well as Allama Ibn Kathir rahimahullah in his tafsir, that كان في زمن عمر شاب متعبد قد لزم المسجد. During the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, there was a young lad, a youngster who was in the prime of his youth, young, handsome, energetic. But this youngster had dedicated his time to engage in Allah's worship, engage in ibadah, and he would frequent the masjid. وَكَانَ عُمَرُ بِهِ مُعْجَبًا. Even Umar radiallahu anhu, the Amirul Mu'mineen, was very impressed and took a special liking for this boy. This boy would spend the entire day in the masjid, and after Isha, he would return home. كَانَ لَهُ أَبٌ شَيْخٌ كَبِيرٌ. He had an elderly father who required his khidmat and his service. So he would return to his father after performing his Isha and tend to the needs of his father. This was his habit, and there was a certain time his father used to expect him. But on the way from the masjid to his father's home, there was a woman who would see this young boy every day crossing this path. And she was impressed with him. She was taken aback by his beauty. And whenever he would pass, she would try to catch his attention. She would try to lure him or draw him closer to herself. But every time this boy was a pious youngster, he would avoid her and go straight to his father's home. Eventually one night, she stood and she engaged in conversation with this boy to the point that he also became inclined, and she invited him home, obviously, to engage in some act of privacy, to engage in something haram. So he comes up to her, he answers, and she goes into the home. He is about to enter, and immediately, just before he enters the door of this woman's home, he thinks of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, and the intentions he had, the evil intentions he had to commit a crime with this woman, those intentions are removed. And an ayat flashes through his mind, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. The pious people who possess the quality of taqwa, when a wrong thought or an evil whisper of shaitan comes to them, then immediately they remember Allah, they engage their thought correctly, then Allah opens their eyes and now they can see the path. He didn't even enter, this ayat crossed his mind and he falls down unconscious. He passes out before entering the woman's house. This woman sees what has happened. She is confused. Before she gets implicated, she calls a slave girl and they both lift him up and they take him out of the house. Then they think to themselves, his normal routine was to always go to his father. So they carry him and they leave him outside his father's door. They seat him up, they prop him up, lean him against the door. The father was worried that my son normally returns at this time home. He hasn't come as yet. So the father goes out, opens the door to go and search for his son. The moment he opens the door, he sees his son sitting on the floor. So with the help of few family members, they bring the boy into the home and they wait. After some time, some part of the night passes, the son wakes up. And the father asks him, Malaka, what has happened to you? You passed out, normally you come at this time. How did you end up here? What happened to you? So the boy just pushes it aside and he says, Khair, everything is well. So the father insists, please tell me exactly what had transpired. So the boy then shares the entire incident, that this woman invited me, there were some bad intentions, I was about to enter, and then an ayat flashed through my mind. The father asks him, please tell me, what was that ayat? He says, the ayat was, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. Surah Al-A'raf. That this ayat crossed my mind when the pious people, when some bad thought comes to them, they engage in dhikr, and then Allah enables them to see what's the right thing to do. And immediately when he recites this ayat, again he passes out. They try to wake him up, they try to revive him, but after a few moments they realized he didn't just pass out, he passed away. He passed away. So the father called the family members, they took care of they picked up his body, gave the body ghusl, and it was nightfall, so they buried the boy, performed his janazah salah as well. The next morning, Umar radiallahu anhu was informed of what had transpired. Immediately he comes to the house of the father to console with him, ta'ziyah, to basically console him at the loss of his son, But then he told him, Ala adhantani, why didn't you all inform me? I would have come. So they said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, it was nightfall, we didn't want to disturb you, so we didn't send the message up to you. So Umar radiallahu anhu tells the people around him, let's go to the grave of this boy. They go to the grave, and he probably recites something for the boy, and then he mentioned, at the grave, he mentioned the ayat, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentions in Quran, for that person who fears his Rabb, for that person who fears standing, giving accountability before his Rabb, Allah won't bless him with one Jannah, Allah will bless him with a double Jannah. And everyone around, Allama ibn Asakir records the incident, those who were around, everyone heard a voice coming out from the grave. This youngster, he answered and he said, قَدْ أَعْطَانِيهِمَا Rabbi fil Jannah. Allah has blessed me with both these Jannats that you are talking about, both these gardens that you are speaking, this double Jannat that you are speaking about in this ayat of Quran. Allah has blessed me with both. You'll be witness. Allah has already given it to me. So we understand from this incident, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his action, and he liked this youngster. He went to console the father. But what we also understand is the power of a person staying away from wrong. We all understand very well that the attraction to the opposite gender is placed into every human being, young or old, pious or impious, learned or unlearned. Every person has an attraction for the opposite gender that's placed within every human. But what we need to do is, as explained in Quran, is that when this temptation comes before us, then we turn away from it. In the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, in the hadith of Bukhari, سَبْعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ تحت ظله يوم لا ظل إلا ظله كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. There will be 7 people who will be under the shade of Allah's throne on a day where there will be no other shade besides Allah's shade. One will be that person. رجل دعته أو طلبته امرأة ذات منصب وجمال فقال إني أخاف الله. A man who was invited, who was called, who was sought for by a woman who has good social standing, who's extremely beautiful, but this person immediately says, I cannot do this action, I fear Allah. A person in this situation, Allah appreciates his action so much. Yes, you come to the masjid and you get your Jannah, Allah bless us all with Jannah. But at times, even in these type of scenarios, a man can get his Jannah. When he fears Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, we make dua, Allah never puts us in that situation because we don't know where we can end up. But we make dua, Allah protects us at all times. If a person is in the situation, then to leave that temptation, he'll engage in that action, it may make him happy, but if he stays away, he'll get even greater. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala give us the ability to stay away from haram. Allah give us the ability, when this type of temptation comes to us, then we leave it immediately. Allah fill our hearts with the fear of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and Allah join us into the ranks of the muttaqeen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.